one of my favorite horror franchises is making a triumphant return. Final Destination 6. Yes. I don't know the directors' names. I'm going to have the graphic, but these directors apparently, to pitch their version of the movie when they're interviewing via Zoom to direct Final Destination 6, apparently they faked their death on the Zoom. That's how you get hired, guys. Go above and beyond. I would like to see that if they posted it. Did they post it? Let me know. So these directors, I'm pretty much open for anybody to direct, Obviously, they're doing good things, or the studio likes what they're doing. So, would I have liked a more well-known director to direct it? Sure. Kind of like how I feel about Fantastic Four, Matt Shakman, the director of WandaVision, taking on the Fantastic Four. I'm not too caught up with his recent works besides WandaVision, but I know by watching the behind the scenes of WandaVision how difficult it was to direct WandaVision, as far as each era, each episode, they had to film it all at once, kind of a thing. And that's a very huge task to take on. So I trust the director with Fantastic Four somewhat. When it comes to Final Destination 6, I don't know these guys. I have to look it up. But as far as I'm concerned, as long as it's connected and they embrace what came before it, I'll give it a chance. If they don't ignore previous movies, if they don't try to retcon and say, "Oh, we're ignoring 3, 4, and 5, but 1 and 2 are connected." No. We don't need none of that. If this is what they're doing with Final Destination 6, we don't need it. But if they're going to call it 6, they're embracing what came before it, bringing it to the new age. Maybe tell it through like Death's perspective, or they change the perspective a bit. Fine, that's awesome. Final Destination 6 is up there with, it came before Saw. I grew up with Final Destination, and then Saw came around and kind of took over for Final Destination when it came to the horror, the kills, strategic kills, and the creative nature of Final Destination. And Saw, it has like the same kind of vibe. I'd say Saw is definitely more graphic. Final Destination 6 is bigger in scope as far as the creative ways they kill people on accident. I'm very excited for Final Destination 6. It was supposed to film in 2019, 2020, and then the pandemic hit, and we didn't hear anything about it. The creator or writer, Jeffrey Wittick, a few years ago, he co-signed it basically, and yeah, he said they're going into casting in 2020, but now there's apparently new writers, so it's a new take than what was going to happen last time. So I'm just very interested to see where they go with this franchise, because it's part 6. Usually 6 closes out a trilogy. Is this a start of a new trilogy? Because you know how marketing goes. They want 3 of them, especially if it's horror. But Final Destination can be a little expensive depending on how they choose to tell the story, how they choose to frame the kills. Do they want to make it smaller? If they make it smaller and they just have a creative story, you can make a lot of them because it doesn't cost much. Now, how much are they willing to spend on a Final Destination? It's been 11 years since the last one. It's kind of like Scream, and people don't like to hear it, but Scream They only do those Scream movies, because they're cheap to make, and they pull in like 100 million opening weekend or something. I've done the numbers. If you add all the Screams together, they make little under $1 billion, and that's all the movies together. Then you got Fast and Furious comes out. It's like a blockbuster, makes $1 billion for one movie. Marvel makes $1 billion for one movie. You can afford to spend $200 million, $300 million on a movie. When it comes to Scream, you're getting 20, you're getting 30, you're getting 40 million to make it. So you need to bank on not having a big star in the movie that wants a bunch of money. Like, you got to pare down the script. You have to make sure your CGI budget's low, because that's a problem now. I talked about it earlier. The VFX artists are underpaid, overworked. They're pushing back projects 7, 8, 9 months. That's how backed up they are. It's frustrating. And they can put money into practical. They can put more money into practical effects. But do they want to budget the cost of labor and for VFX, or do they want to pay people to build sets, get creative, be creative? But these suits, they don't care about creativity. They want to streamline everything, make sure everything's the same every time, like a factory, like McDonald's. It's great. It's great, but sometimes we want Olive Garden. Sometimes we want to go to Red Lobster. And that's what they needed to do with Final Destination. I think it'll be a moderate budget. Maybe, 50 million, 80 million. That's my guess. If you're expecting like a $200 million Final Destination movie, I don't know about that, guys. I don't know about that. These movies have been somewhat successful. I'm not surprised. I'm very surprised it's not going directly to Hulu or something. Like the Hellraiser, perfect example. Those movies weren't billion-dollar movies, but they did have a lot of practical effects. CGI was obviously terrible, but they did what they could at the time. But they didn't rely on it. They used it strategically, and it was art. Like it was like they used paintings. It was very artsy the way they directed those Hellraiser movies. So there's two ways you can go. Do you want it to be a low budget, put it on Hulu, or are you gonna go full theatrical, give it a modest budget, put it out in theaters, wide release, and hedge your bets on the box office? And then you gotta add marketing in the theatrical. It's just the whole thing, guys. I don't know. Final Destination 6. Are you excited about it? Let me know what you think about these directors. Should we trust them with this franchise? The writers. Let me know in the comments. How do you think the budget is going to be? Huge, modest, or low? And do we know if this is getting a theatrical release, or are they going to put it on Hulu? Let me know in the comment sections. Yes.